Hello, O Speaks. If you're new here, like, subscribe, share, because why wouldn't you? All right, so I got a really good one today. um, if you didn't see my last live, check that out. I think you can learn a lot from it. I went through a bit of the history and how we got to where we were with Epstein, and it's really important. I think it's important. I think everyone should think it's important because when we elected uh, uh, officials at every level of government to expose and drain the swamp, this is what people expected. We wanted them to release these files, and they still haven't done it. So what they've released is it's just over a half of what they have. Now we're not asking for them to release, child videos, but when it comes to contacts and all that stuff, this is what we expected, and we have not gotten much of that. So today I'm going to go over some things. Again, if you did not see my last live, it's very, very, very important. It really is, and this one's going to be just as important. It's just going to be a little bit more information. Bill Barr was the Attorney General under the first Trump administration, and he's the one who was overseeing Jeffrey Epstein before when he unalived himself. And it's this is important because, well, we'll get to that. Bill Barr. He was the counsel for the law firm that represented Jeffrey Epstein in the plea deal case. What's going on? Not worth it, which I found interesting. Everybody knew this, but I don't know if people remember this. So he represented Epstein during that plea deal that I went over in my last live. Again, if you did not see that, you need to check that out. Because the plea deal essentially gave him immunity and all of his co-conspirators immunity, and then potential conspirators immunity. Very, very, very strange. Bill Barr, who was then the AG in 2019, was part of that, and he recused himself from looking into that plea deal. Obviously, there's a conflict there. He was part of that law firm. I don't know if he worked on the case or not, but he was part of the law firm. Cool. He did not recuse himself from overseeing the federal trafficking case. And a lot of people were like, well, wait a minute. If there's a conflict when you made that plea, or when your law firm made that plea deal, why wouldn't there be a conflict when you're overseeing this trafficking case? So that's what we're going to start off today. And I want to start with this video. Let's go.
William Barr weighing in on the suspicion surrounding the death of convicted offender Jeffrey Epstein. Barr saying he did have concerns following the apparent suicide in a Manhattan correctional center.
Before I begin, I'd like to briefly address news from the Manhattan Correctional Center over the weekend regarding Jeffrey Epstein. This sex trafficking case was very important to the Department of Justice and to me personally. It was important to the dedicated prosecutors in the Southern District of New York and to our FBI agents who investigated the case and were preparing it for trial. Most importantly, this case was important to the victims who had the courage to come forward and deserve the opportunity to confront the accused in the courtroom. I was appalled, and indeed the whole department was, and frankly, angry, to learn of the MCC's failure to adequately secure this prisoner. We are now learning of serious irregularities at this facility that are deeply concerning and demand a thorough investigation. The FBI and the Office of Inspector General are doing just that. We will get to the bottom of what happened, and there will be accountability. But let me assure you that this case will continue on against anyone who was complicit with Epstein.
But Bill Barr, your law firm gave all of them immunity. That's why there hasn't been any accountability. And he said he guaranteed there was going to be accountability. There were people held accountable for individual charges, but they had to stay separate from this whole Epstein thing. And that's why this was weird. It made no sense. It never made sense. Because here we are, it's 2026, this happened in 2019. But the case had been going on. he made a plea deal, or not, maybe not him. His firm made a plea deal to give Epstein and all of those co-conspirators immunity in 2008. So here he is in 2019 saying, I'm appalled that he's gone. Oh, you're relieved. You're not appalled.
Co-conspirators should not rest easy. The victims deserve justice, and they will get it.
Miranda, the AG also said that he personally reviewed the videotape coverage, and he can say that nobody entered the cell, that Epstein was alone the whole time.
Yeah, look, I thought that was pretty impressive that he personally did review that footage, but it also doesn't actually allay our suspicions that it wasn't a kind of a Frankie, Five Angels, Godfather 2 experience where someone actually went to Epstein and said, look, you might as well kill yourself because otherwise you know we can get to you because we did 2 weeks ago and it'll be much less pain-free. Better for you to do it on your own terms. So, you know, perhaps he did it that way. It doesn't allay anyone's suspicions that he had a lot of dirt on a lot of powerful people like Prince Andrew, and where are those videos and photographs? And he had peephole cameras in every corner of his mansion.
Right.
Where is the footage from that?
Where is that? Exactly. So you mentioned Prince Andrew, and I'm curious what you think about this. He had this week where I think he thought, if I just do one media interview, I can resolve all the problems. Instead, it was like opening up Pandora's box. He now has been relieved of his duties by the Queen, and he said this: "It has become clear to me over the past few days that my association with Jeffrey Epstein has become a major disruption to my family's work and the valuable work going on in the many organizations and charities that I am proud to support." But interestingly, Miranda, this is a guy of such privilege that he just gets to walk away from his official duties of doing charitable work, and then he's scot-free.
And he's still getting paid by the Queen and a nice salary and living in castles.
All right.
Well, I'll let this play. But no, it's not about him having a heart to do it himself. He was too arrogant. He thought he was going to get away with it. He'd already gotten away with it. He had immunity for 10 years. He had immunity. So I'm talking to Not Worth It. Sorry. I'm live on Twitch, Rumble, and YouTube. I need to do better at pulling the comment up before I read it, because what it does is they don't know what I'm talking about. They don't know who I'm responding to. They probably think I'm crazy if they're on another platform. I've been doing the same thing when I get Twitch comments. I need to just pull them up and then respond. So I apologize. But no, he knew he was going to get away with it, and I think he was going to get away with it. But the people who he was dealing with could not allow him to get away with it.
Right now, former Attorney General Bill Barr is facing questions from lawmakers about the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's death. Lawmakers subpoenaed Barr for his testimony today. You'll remember, Barr was the Attorney General at the time of Epstein's death. He also personally reviewed the almost 11 hours of jail footage from that night. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman is here and joins me now. Katrina, good to see you. What information do lawmakers hope to hear today?
Well, Vlad, it was very unusual for an Attorney General, Bill Barr, to personally oversee this investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, to personally be reviewing that surveillance footage. Also, his staff was on site shortly after Epstein's death. That was very unusual as well with an inmate death. We have some sound of what he said at the time. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
Before we even listen to that, remember, you got to check the last live if you didn't, because there was something else unusual that happened, actually by 2 attorneys that were supposed to be prosecuting. So this is the 3rd attorney dealing with Epstein that did something unusual. And they keep saying he reviewed the footage himself. But we went over that on my last live. And how did he miss what I went over on my last live? It's not possible. It's not.
This sex trafficking case was very important to the Department of Justice and to me personally. I was appalled, and indeed the whole department was, and frankly, angry to learn of the MCC's failure to adequately secure this prisoner.
But this is why Barr will have more information than your typical Attorney General about Epstein's death. At the time, he said that he had reviewed the footage, that he concluded no one came or went from Epstein's cell. But what's interesting, Vlad, is our reporter Dan Rutnick reviewed that footage, and he said that it looks as though at least one person went down to that cell. You can see this sort of orange blur on the footage. That's the color of the inmate's clothes. It's also the color of the linen, so maybe someone carrying those, but it was 10:40 p.m. at night. So, this is a question for Bill Barr. Does he still think that no one came or went from that cell? We've also reviewed the surveillance footage, and Dan Rupnick as well was told by a government source that there's this missing minute, but the government source said that the government has footage where that minute is still there. Attorney General.
And this was so important that I went over this last week on my live. When we saw this footage, those two doors that you see there are what everyone, what's going on, KMC, are what everyone assumed one of those was his cell. It was not. And they purposely, in my opinion, they purposely led us to believe that so that we think that it's crystal clear what happened. No one went in, no one went out. When in actuality, these are nowhere near his cell. Nowhere near his cell.
Pam Bondi has said that it was a refresh, that it's just typical for that minute to be missing, but there are so many questions swirling here that they're hoping to get answers from.
Yeah, a lot of questions. The public has maintained very sort of animated feelings about this. What do you think that the public wants to know?
I think another big question that the public wants to know is, was anything ever investigated in terms of Jeffrey Epstein's death other than suicide? Once that determination was made, did they look into other possibilities? What were the parameters of the investigation? What does Bill Barr know about this? Back at the time of the criminal investigation against Epstein, there were also calls for Barr to recuse himself because he had ties to Epstein. Right. He had worked at a law firm that represented Epstein. Epstein had also, in the 1970s, worked at this fancy private school, Vlad, where Bill Barr's father was the headmaster. So there's just all of these connections here and so many questions that remain, and he's the first person that they're going to be talking to.
I hadn't heard that detail.
So again, this is from last week, from my last live. Those red dots on the screen, you see the little cameras on the top. Those red cameras on the top are cameras that did not work. That red rectangle over here, that is Epstein's cell. The green camera off to the left is the only camera that worked, and it's nowhere near his cell. It's nowhere near his cell. So when I heard Dan Bongino say, I saw everything, it's clear as day, no one went in, no one came out. And Bill Barr supposedly went over all of this. How? How did he go over all of this? Unless there's footage and they're lying about one of these 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras that didn't work, how do they know who went in and who went out? What's going on, old school? There's no way they can know. And then I talked about the box on the bottom of the model. Maybe that's where the entrance is. Maybe there should be a camera leading into there. There's no way that anyone can say that they could see. It's clear as day. It's crystal clear. No one went in. No one came out. It's impossible to know that unless they haven't released something, and unless it's different from these views, because all of those views, those hard drives, were wiped conveniently. Talked about that on my last slide. At the instruction of the warden, the tech guy told him, hey, if there is anything on these hard drives and you have me replace them, it's going to scrub them. Warden said, go ahead. Oh, okay. That's how it works. So when we see those two doors, everyone, I was one of them, assumed that one of those doors was his. It was not. So it's not clear as day anything. Let me pull this up. Now, one second. Okay. Actually, let me pull back just a little bit. All right. So, why did it go that far forward? Let's leave it here. All right. Now, he said he shared footage of the guards, blocks, cameras with the partitions. Yeah. And what's interesting is if he saw all of this, Bill Barr saw all of this, and Dan Bongino saw all of this, where did the footage come from? Because it didn't come from these cameras. It didn't come from any of these cameras. So, again, unless it's on when you're coming into the building, they can say, well, nobody came in, nobody left. Okay, that's fine. I'll take that. Well, where is that? It's not in the files. I've been going through those files since they came out now. Now, The day after Epstein died, Attorney General, or no, U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman went to a grand jury and got some subpoenas. And he got some subpoenas because of this message that I just had on the screen, because of this here. Make this bigger. Somebody said, not saying anything after this, please don't try to dox me. But last night, after 4 a.m., or wait, I think it's 4:15. 0400 is 4. We'll just say the 0415 count. They took him medical. They took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. He's talking about Epstein here. Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not do releases on weekends unless the judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number. And the guy in the green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think, hey, and let me pull this last part down. They switched them out. So this person here claims to have worked at the facility. This is in Manhattan. Berman immediately put subpoenas out to 4chan, because this was done on 4chan. What's interesting about 4chan is, you guys remember QAnon? When you log on, you're called an anon. That stands for anonymous. It's almost impossible to find out who's posting what, because of how you don't register. You just log in and post, and you're anonymous. And if you're using a VPN or something like that, it's really, you're just not going to find out. Berman, he did these subpoenas to 4chan, and 4chan, they didn't really fight it. They gave this guy's IP. Why would they do this if the guy was lying? If it's just some random guy saying that they switched out Epstein the night before, the morning of, early in the morning. It's really, really fascinating. Let me pull this up quick, because it's I found this really fascinating. Share screen. Which one is it? It is 349. All right. Let's lower this and pull this one up and make it big. Berman subpoenaed. You can see my, yeah, okay, you can see it. He put in this, he went to a grand jury and immediately subpoenaed 4chan. And they responded and gave the guys posts, all of the guys' posts from that IP. Again, I thought this was fascinating. I'm like, huh, this is weird. And then this is the post that I just read to you guys. Not saying anything after this, please don't dox me. It's the exact same post. The most important part of this is he thinks they switched him out. So they're looking into this guy. 4chan gives them the posts. This is 4chan saying, hey, you guys got all the records? Okay, I guess. This leads to them filing another one with Apple. Apple kind of pushes back a little bit. So that was actually pretty cool. But in the end, they start threatening Apple, saying, you don't really have a choice. We need this. It's a matter of national security. We need this. And what's fascinating about this is, again, Apple kind of fought it, but again, they ended up giving in the information. So what do they do next? They subpoena AT&T. I thought all of this was fascinating for a guy who just posted something anonymously on 4chan, which is completely anonymous. Like I thought it was very weird that they would go through these lengths to find out who this person was, unless there's something to this. I don't see why they would do all of this. This is crazy to me. And it was done by the U.S. attorney, so he was specifically looking for this. So they get the AT&T records. AT&T complies eventually. They get all this information. They threaten them also. We command you and all the singular businesses and any excuse being laid aside, you appear attend before the grand jury. So they're threatening AT&T now, saying we need this guy's information. So what do? They comply. Where is it? That's the same one. They comply, and AT&T provides everything. Every text message, every phone call, and AT&T fought it also. But this is literally everything that this guy ever did on the phone, which I thought was like, whoa, that's kind of scary. I mean, we know they had the capability, but AT&T, when they first did the subpoena, said, oh, we can't do that. We don't have access to this. That's when they threatened them, and they gave them, I mean, by the minute, everything this guy's ever done. They know where he did it at. I was like, oh. But again, why would you do this for some random post on 4chan? Like, that's the site where, Pizzagate was founded, QAnon, all that stuff. Like, that's where you go. The WikiLeaks stuff, a lot of it was there. AT&T gave all of this. This is this guy's every move from January 2019 until Epstein's death. We're at what, 8:10 now. This is everything. I could not believe that they are able to pull all this up. I know it kind of makes sense that they should be able to, and they did fight it. So again, to their credit also, they fought giving all this information. But I just was like, wow, this is that guy and his wife, everything they've ever done. What's going on, Juicy Fruit? Let's see, scroll down. This document here is 274 pages. So what do they do now? Through these text messages, and I guess you're getting these alerts saying, oh, well, you have this deposited. Now they track down his bank. Citibank gives him everything that they have. This is the federal government. When they want something and they want to find you, they can find you. And this is proof. Again, the question is, why go through all this over an anonymous post on an anonymous website, 4chan, saying that they switched Epstein out? Why is that important? Is that really important enough to do all this? So what does Citibank do? They comply. Every check that comes into this guy's or leaves this guy's account is now here. Everything, every transaction he's ever done. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Look at this. Every check he's written, every check his wife has written, it's all here. It's all documented. They gave the federal government all of it. So what do they find when they're going through his checks? They find out where he works. Well, his banking records, this is everything, guys. This is crazy to me. I think they even have his PIN. But this is everything this guy has paid for from January 2019 all the way through until Epstein died. And that's when he made the post. So they find out where he works through all of this. Like, this is insanity. I've never seen anything like this. And I'm sure they do stuff like this for drug dealers. But for a guy who made an anonymous post, look at this. It's insane. Now, this is just a spreadsheet. You know how the if you don't print it correctly, it'll split stuff up. That's all this is. But it's, I mean, they redacted stuff, but they really left. I mean, you can even see Uber payments on here. Everything this guy has paid for, everything that he has done electronically is here. Anyway, why did I put all that up? They found out that he does work for the Bureau, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And he was an officer. And his name was Roberto Grijalva. I think that was it. Let me go back. Roberto Grijalva. I'm just going to call him Roberto from here on out. Pretty sure his name is Roberto Grijalva. I don't want to get it wrong though. There it is. Yep. Grijalva, and his wife. I mean, everything. They have everything. And what's really bad about this is they released it, so now anyone can look up these people's everything. It's bad. But so this guy, Roberto, we'll just call him Roberto. Roberto was actually an officer, and he actually worked the day that he made that post. I thought that was fascinating. And I'm like, why would they find it so important to track this guy down from that post? Oh, he actually works there. Oh, he was scheduled. Maybe there's some truth to it, because there's no other reason why they would do all of that. They went through everything that this guy did, and they found him. So he still works to this day with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So they didn't fire him for that post. They actually got he's got 3 promotions since all this happened. I thought this was amazing. So now they moved him from Manhattan to I think there's one in Brooklyn, a facility in Brooklyn. He works there now, but he's now a manager. He didn't get fired. I don't know if they could fire him, because I think he knows something that everybody wants to know. So they give him more money, give him a promotion, transfer him out. Hey, you can't say anything. What's going on, bad guy? They probably threatened him. They may have paid him. I don't know. But the fact that they went through these lengths to find this guy, to me, was like very, very, very eye-opening. But here's the next level of insanity to this story. The same U.S. attorney went, let me pull this up. You're not going to believe this. He made a statement. A statement for release. Let me pull this up. Actually, see, sometimes it'll let me just switch, but let's see. Let's see if it lets me share. Ah, it worked. This is the guy who tracked down Roberto. I can close that tab. I don't need that one anymore. This statement for immediate release, Friday, August 9th. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman said earlier this month, and this is in the files, everybody. I showed you guys how to find the files. I showed you guys how to look. I showed you what to use in my last live. If you haven't seen it, watch it. I'm telling you. Earlier this morning, Manhattan Correctional Center confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein, who faced charges brought by this office of engaging with trafficking of minors, had been found unresponsive in his cell, pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Today's events are disturbing, and we are deeply aware of the potential to present yet another hurdle to giving Epstein's many victims their day in court. To those brave young women who have already come forward, and to many others who have yet to do so, let me reiterate, we remain committed to standing for you. And our investigation of the conduct charged in the indictment, which included conspiracy count, remains ongoing. We continue to urge anyone who feels victim to call this number. What's wrong with this letter? This letter was written the day before Epstein died. I validated this because I couldn't believe that it's true. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. There is a way. This letter was prepared the day before Epstein died. And it said how he was found. Found unresponsive in his cell and pronounced dead shortly thereafter. That's exactly what happened, except he wasn't dead yet. It's in the Epstein Files. I didn't just make this up. This statement of release was the day before. You hear about this? Some of you may have heard about this. I didn't know about this. I saw a thing, and then I went down a rabbit hole and tracked it down and validated, because, again, they put a lot of junk. They put a lot of tips in these files So you don't really know what to believe unless you validate it. And the best way to validate it is to go to the Department of Justice website. There's a whole site dedicated to the files. There's more than that though, but this is the easiest way to say, okay, where did this source come from? Because it'll tell you if it was just a tip. It'll tell you if it was investigated. This letter came out the day before Epstein died. How did they know he was going to die? And how did they know how they were going to find him? This is the type of statement you put out after somebody died, not before. I thought this was fascinating. So that's the purpose of this live, going over these things that I found that I thought were weird and I thought were very, 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 very important. I'm going to show you guys this one more time. Oh, this worked twice. This is cool. Go to the website if you want to find this stuff. Look on your own. Validate it. Don't believe some of the stuff I'm saying is wild, and some of it's true, but I would still be careful what you just believe, because a lot of that stuff again is tips, and anybody can put in a tip with the FBI, and they purposely did not filter that stuff. They purposely did it so that they can muddy the waters, so you don't find stuff like that, like a U.S. attorney putting out a statement about somebody's death before they even died. That's insanity. Not worth saying. Could the letter have been drafted and tweaked after he passed and the date wasn't changed by mistake? I validated it. It wasn't edited in any way. It was put out, or it wasn't put out. Sorry. He had it prepared to put out. But even if it were, how do you know he was going to die the next day? It makes no sense. There's no justification for it. And again, I validated. That was in the files. That's what I looked up. And then I went on and looked anywhere for the fact that that could have been a hoax. It's not. It wasn't a mistake. It was nothing. There's no explanation for it, though. Are you 18 years or older? Yes. Verify your age. And do your searches here. 302s is a great way to find out legitimate stuff that was already searched. You type in 302s. You can do 302 or 302S, and it will pull up legitimate stuff that has been validated or at least investigated, that they felt were credible enough to investigate, which again goes back to the other one. Why was that random Anon one post on 4chan? Why was that deemed credible? He said they replaced the guy. Where is that something that the FBI needs to spend that much time doing? They literally went into his whole life. They found his phone. They found his. How was it? How was it validated? Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean? I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what that meant. I think they mean, how was it validated? I believe. You can look this up. Yeah. You can look this up on that site that I just showed. Actually, oh, it didn't switch back. Switch back. This is the full Epstein library. That's the letter. He did another release and changed the date, like you said, but how was it in your computer, in the files, or in your computer the day before it even happened? That's the part that doesn't make sense. Let me do this. U.S. Attorney General Berman. One second. It's pretty insane. Let's see if it switches again. This is the most it's ever let me switch. Oh, there you go. Cool. There is nowhere debunking it. I typed in, did U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman really write a letter about Epstein's death before he died? Yes. Newly released, and then it refers you back to the thing that I found. It's dated August 9th, the day before he was officially found unresponsive in his cell. And then it talks about the discrepancy. The draft statement released as part of a massive file dump. Official prison records state that he was not found until approximately 6:30 a.m. on the 10th. So they're saying the DOJ officials and legal analysts have categorized the August 9th as a clerical error, unfortunate typo, unlike the final public statement released on the 10th. Early drafts dated the 9th omitted the term apparent suicide. That's the only real discrepancy, is that it doesn't say suicide. It said he was found unresponsive. It doesn't say that it wasn't real. It's an unfortunate typo. Unfortunate. And the document really exists with the 9th date. So it's weird that we're looking at something that's clearly could not have possibly happened. There's no way it could have possibly happened. What's up, EJ? It couldn't possibly have happened. How do you put a letter out about a man's death before he dies? It's in the files. You can copy and paste it in there. You can look it up yourself. It's there. They don't deny it. So my validation is that they don't deny it. There's no, you could put it in ChatGPT, you could put it in Google, you could put it in Grok. They don't deny it. So this is what it is. And it's in the file. It's in the official files. That's more than questionable. He put out a statement. I found that fascinating. You announce a man dead before they're dead. And it happens to coincide with the guy who says, who worked there. It's proven that he worked there because they did all that searching into his history to find out that he worked there. So, let's see, what's the next thing? There was a guy. Yeah, oh, it's more than a setup, yeah. And again, even if let's say that the guy wrote it and he worked there and he was lying, they didn't fire him for making up something like that. They promoted him and moved him. They transferred him. How does that happen? No one can justify that to me. A guy writes on an anonymous site under an anonymous name, not even a name. It just says anon, literally anon. Hey, they moved Epstein. And the government's thought process is to say that's not credible. It's to dig into every aspect of his life. They went to Apple, they went to AT&T, they went to Citibank. They found out his paychecks came from this place, and then it leads all back to the prison, and that he actually worked that night. And the U.S. attorney conveniently wrote a letter that day, same day that that guy said that happened, saying that, oh, we found Epstein dead the day before he was found dead. Anyway, you remember that guy Leslie Wexner that I talked about in the last live? Again, if you didn't see the last live, you need to watch it. It's important. It really is. If you're interested in this stuff, obviously. What's up, Vibe in my lane? Les Wexner is the billionaire who I kept getting the company wrong. I kept saying Bath and Body Works. It's Bed Bath and Beyond. No, it is Bath and Body Works. See, I'm still messing it up. Anyway, Bath and Body Works, Abercrombie and Fitch, Victoria's Secret. That guy, the one that Epstein was hanging out with, and he was pretending to be a Victoria's Secret model agent. and that's how he was luring girls in. Him and Ghislaine Maxwell and this other chick, I forget her name. That's how they were luring girls. They were saying that they were scouts or agents because they knew Leslie Wexner, and he would validate these people, saying that they work for me, and then they were just like a conveyor belt bringing these little girls in, teenagers. It's disgusting. They were also supposed to be involved with the CIA and weapons trafficking and cartels and drug trafficking, all this stuff. They had the airline that the government gave them a grant to relocate the airport. It's like, okay, how is this even possible? All that stuff. That's the guy that I talked about in the last live. If you didn't see it, I talked about this in the last live. Something interesting came up about him. Now, I said it in the last live that he was a co-conspirator, and he was. But for whatever reason, the government kept covering up. Oh yeah, the federal government gave him a grant to relocate it. And they ended up just shutting it down. I forget the airline. I said it in the last live. South American Airline. I don't want to get it wrong. Because I'm just saying what actually happened. This is what actually happened. There's no denying this happened. Actually, matter of fact, let me look it up. I should still have it. It was called, their airline was called, it's so ridiculous. Epstein. Southern Air Transport. If you want to look up Southern Air Transport, you can see everything that it was involved in. That was Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein. So if you look up Southern Air, let me look it up. Look it up yourself. Google this. Ignore that parentheses. Look up that airline, and you can see everything about them and how they're connected to Iran-Contra and everything. It's wild. It makes the rabbit holes are endless. That's why it's so hard to find any. You have 3 million files that were released, and how do you even know where to start? That's why I told you guys, if you type in 302s or 302, that's the best bet when you're first starting. If you want to look at real stuff. And then you can just go down. What's going on, Highly Favored? You could just go down any rabbit hole you want. It's endless. It's endless. Anyway, Leslie Wexner. This video here is going to talk about him. So there's going to be, I got a lot of hearings because Pam Bondi, Cash Patel, in August of last year, and then again the other day, were all brought for hearings for this because it's like, hey, what's going on? Thomas Massie is a guy that I think is amazing, but the right now hates him. He's actually really, really conservative. But they're calling him a Democrat. They're trying to destroy him because he's insisting that they put out these files. And certain things that they're covering he doesn't like, and he wants it exposed. So this is going to be Thomas Massie speaking here.
Christmas ornaments, drywall, and Jerry Epstein.
Sorry, this is Kennedy, but this is the hearing, and it's going to come up in here.
Name 3 things that don't hang themselves. That's what the American people think. That's what the American people think. And they deserve some answers. And I know that you're not in charge of these investigations.
Yes, sir.
But you talk to the people who are. And I need you to take a very respectful message today. Tell the American people what happened. And don't rush it so that they don't do a thorough investigation. But you and I both know they can make this a top priority and get it done more quickly than they normally would.
As I indicated in my opening statement, I wanted to talk about the death of Mr. Epstein. Do you concur with the opinion that it was a suicide?
That was the finding of the coroner, sir.
Okay. Do you have any evidence to suggest otherwise?
I do not.
How could this have happened?
Unfortunately, sir, the death and the whole situation is still under the investigation of the FBI and the Inspector General's office, and I'm really not at liberty to discuss specifics of this case. I can discuss issues around institutional operations, but I can't specifically talk about that particular issue.
Okay. With a case this high profile, there's got to be either major malfunction of the system or a criminal enterprise at foot to allow this to happen. So are you looking at both? Is the FBI looking at both?
If the FBI is involved, then they are looking at criminal enterprise, yes.
Do we have people in custody today of this high-profile nature? Have we done anything to adjust since Mr. Epstein's death?
Sir, we take every inmate's life very seriously in the Bureau of Prisons. A high-profile inmate is no more important or significant in terms of our operations than just the average inmate that comes our
When
way.
I mean high-profile, somebody's on a suicide watch.
I would like to explain our suicide watch system, if I may. I can't talk specifically about Epstein, but we have different tiers of response if we identify an inmate who appears to be having suicidal thinking. And I came into the Bureau as a psychologist. I worked with lots of suicidal inmates. I was warden in our psychiatric facility in Butner, and I know how difficult it is to always be able to predict who is suicidal and who is not. But once an inmate is identified as potentially suicidal, we have a suicide watch operation that we can place them in. It's a very stark, very difficult setting where everything is stripped from the room except a mattress. They get a coarse gown like
Everything
to
is
wear
stripped from the
that
room.
cannot be twisted in any way that they could hang themselves from it. They have one mattress and one blanket, and they are watched constantly. There's
Listen to these guidelines. Everything is stripped from the room, one mattress, one blanket. Listen to this. This is what happens if you're on suicide watch. Oh, well, if you're on unaliving watch, self-deletion watch, and you're in prison. This is what they're supposed to do. And then I'm gonna show you what they actually did for him.
I was warden in our psychiatric facility in Butner, and I know how difficult it is to always be able to predict who is suicidal and who is not. But once an inmate is identified as potentially suicidal, we have a suicide watch operation that we can place them in. It's a very stark, very difficult setting where everything is stripped from the room except a mattress. They get a coarse gown like to wear that cannot be twisted in any way that they could hang themselves from it. They have one mattress and one blanket, and they are watched constantly. There's nothing else in that room.
Mr. Epstein on suicide watch?
Yes, he was.
We see the inside of Epstein's cell. There's a bunk bed, a toilet, and a small table attached to the floor. On the floor is the CPAP machine. There are at least 6 blankets.
She said one blanket. You heard what she said, right? Look at all the stuff that is not supposed to be in that room. He's going to go over it. He's going to go over it. But I connected this because if you listen to what she said, you're going to see. I'm going to play it one more time because this is really important. What was in his room and what was not supposed to be in there makes no sense. One mattress, one blanket, all these so-called precautions to stop this guy from unaliving himself.
Predict who is suicidal and who is not. But once an inmate is identified as potentially suicidal, we have a suicide watch operation that we can place them in. It's a very stark, very difficult setting where everything is stripped from the room except a mattress.
Everything.
They get a coarse gown like to wear that cannot be twisted in any way that they could hang themselves from it. They have one mattress and one blanket, and they are watched constantly. There's nothing else in that room.
Mr. Epstein on suicide watch?
Yes, he was.
We see the inside of Epstein's cell. There's a bunk bed, a toilet, and a small table attached to the floor. On the floor is the CPAP machine. There are at least 6 blankets or sheets strewn about, and prison policy should have allowed only one blanket and one sheet per inmate. On the table is a pen, a violation of prison policy, and an MP3 player and headphones, a bag for a CPAP mask, as well as several other items. Under the bunk bed is an unidentified object that could be a suitcase. Along it is a pipe similar to the one attached to the CPAP machine. Neither of those items are noted or documented in publicly available reports. One hallmark of the scene is that numerous items appear to be moved before all the photos of
the CPAP machine has a cord he could have used. That's not supposed to be in there. None of this stuff is supposed to be in there. There's supposed to be one blanket, and that's it. The outfit she said is supposed to be like a gown. No, it's all his clothes were still in there. You're going to see it. I'm going to show you.
been taken. Case in point, these socks. Earlier we saw them down the hall, yet now a pair appears in front of his door. Experts say this is reflective of poor crime scene control. Next is a photo of the bunk bed again from a different angle. You can see an orange string hanging. This is one of several orange fabric pieces that appear throughout the room, as well as an additional evidence collected by the medical examiner. None of those are confirmed to be the noose that he hung himself with. In the Department of Justice Inspector General report, that picture is featured alongside the description of how he was found, suggesting investigators believe that was the string he used to hang himself. But if that was the case, and the room wasn't disturbed before the photographer arrived, he would have been sitting on mattresses, not the floor. You can see that there are actually 2 mattresses on the floor, as well as additional blankets.
Remember, she said 1 mattress, 1 blanket, that's it, right? Why is there 2 mattresses, 6 blankets, a CPAP machine, a pen, headphones, a cord to the CPAP machine, and a bunch of strings that he could have used for nooses? Where did all this come from? How was this even possible? Not only that, it was all moved. Half of it was down a hallway somewhere, and then another picture, it's there. So there's moving stuff. This is supposed to be a crime scene. All of this happened before the FBI got here.
sleeping on the floor and having 2 mattresses were both violations of policy.
Yep.
You can see additional orange fabric, perhaps clothing
It's
or
everywhere.
ripped sheets, wedged between the wall and the mattress, but there was no documentation of those items. And a close-up of a different cloth that appears
how
to be
many
tied in
nooses
a
there are.
loop. Next, we jump to an entirely different room, although it's not clear where. We can see a defibrillator and an orange cloth tied to a noose-like shape. Comparing the floor, you can see that this is not Epstein's cell.
Not even the same
A
room.
defibrillator had been brought out to be used on Epstein in his cell, and then again in a medic station at the prison, where employees had transported his body. This cloth did not appear in earlier photos in his room. Here's how the room was found. Here's how it looks 90 minutes later. Remember, the FBI still has not arrived on scene. It appears the items that have been photographed in detail are now placed on top of the bunk bed. Where they came from is not clear. The final evidence photos are Epstein's clothing that had been returned.
That look like a robe or a gown to you? Everything in his cell was designed for him to unalive himself, and he didn't. I don't believe he did. This makes no sense. None of this makes any sense. It's all wrong, and it was just being moved around. Like, oh, well, let's put this here, this here. Oh, when the FBI gets here, they put everything on the top bunk. You're not supposed to touch anything. How are they supposed to investigate?
From the hospital. Included in that are plastic zip tie handcuffs. This photo, taken that morning, shows his hands are cuffed. While
That's him. Those are pants. That's not a gown. Why are his hands zip tied? None of this makes sense. None of it.
It may have made sense to restrain Epstein, given he had not been officially declared dead. The Department of Justice report makes no mention of it. According to prison sources, staff had access to handcuffs, which were the standard tool for inmate transport. From the report, it doesn't appear that an official FBI crime scene investigator ever visited the scene, documented any items, or ran fingerprint or DNA tests on any.
So Bill Barr never sent anyone there to investigate this. They just took all the pictures, rounded it up, and said, unalived himself. Perfect. Case closed.
Anything in the room. Again, the Department of Justice declined to comment. We've reached out to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, as well as former and current staff involved in the investigation.
Look at how many nooses were found in his cell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nooses. Nope, up here there's more. In the third row to the left, there's 1, 2, 3 more. None of this stuff is supposed to be in his cell. Oh wait, there's one more in the upper right-hand corner, second one down. There's another noose. This is insanity. And we would not know about any of this without this last dump, without this last files dump. Because this was all in the files. This is how they found out. Like, wait, whoa, this really doesn't make sense. Oh wait, there's another noose. Second to bottom row, third from the right.
The doctor who pronounced Epstein dead, all of the guards working that night, the EMTs who transported him, the Bureau of Prisons, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and others, all declined to comment or did not respond.
So this is why people say, and this goes back to when it first happened. They're like, there's no way that's him. Nose is different. You can see the nose. It's definitely different from, you see the alive version of him and the unalive version of him. I think, this sounds like a conspiracy, but I just gave you guys literal proof. A guy who works there validated that he works there. The federal government did it. They show that he works there. He still works there. You can look him up right now. You can Google his name. Roberto, whatever his last name was. You have to rewind. He works there. He said, hey, they moved this guy out the day before. That's not him. This photo, the nose is definitely different than his nose. And it's not just his nose, his ear's different also. That is not his ear. It's completely different. Nobody wants to comment. Nobody commented on it. I don't even know if that's a real body. I don't know. Nothing's out of the realm of imagination right now, because it is validated by the federal government, by the U.S. attorney. They denied, the only thing they edited was the verbiage on the letter Oh, nobody loses their jobs for this stuff. This is a favor. But that nose is definitely different. That ear is definitely different. It's not even close. That's who they're saying was him. And you have a guy who still works for the Federal Bureau of Prisons who said they switched him out. He got 3 promotions. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that this guy's still alive. It's just a thought, because I thought this was insane. And I'm looking at it like, I don't get this. I don't get it at all. But let's go back to the hearings.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself, or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant.
The overwhelming majority of that video is pornographic material that was downloaded from the internet and child sexual abuse material. We will never release that.
Well, as you should not release the victims, but if there are videos that relate to others who Epstein trafficked to, such as maybe Prince Andrew, or photographs, that you have total control to release.
Yes, and if it exists...
And so why haven't you released it?
Why are you supposing that that is a fact when in fact it is false? Are you saying that...
You're saying that none of the videos relate to anything relevant to the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking ring?
Every single video that we have collected pursuant to the prior search warrants has been examined for the last 10 years. And every single video has been utilized for whatever prosecutions were able to be legally brought.
I'm not asking about prosecutions. I'm asking about why you aren't releasing the full Epstein files, including the names of people who were involved in the sex ring that you promised to do before you became FBI director.
I just told you, I'm not going to release downloaded porn.
I'm not asking about that. Fine. I'm asking about all the other files.
What other videos? Tell me.
See, you see how slick he is? He said all the other files. What other videos? He said files. So they're very careful with their language because they don't want to get caught up on perjury. Although he's probably going to get hit with perjury. He's probably going to get hit. But listen to what he says. He said, "What about all the other files? What videos?" He didn't say videos.
You promised to do before you became FBI director.
I just told you, I'm not going to release downloaded porn.
I'm not asking about that. Fine. I'm asking about all the other files.
What other videos? Tell me. Tell me.
That's what I'm asking. You're saying there are no videos that would be relevant to anyone else involved in the Jeffrey Epstein sex ring.
Pursuant to Mr. Acosta's collection of information based on the search warrants. That's all we have in our possession.
And I'm asking you that stuff.
That's all we got.
I'm not asking all you got. I'm asking you in that stuff. There's nothing that's related to to any other sex traffic, any other people engaged with Epstein in underage sex.
That's correct. To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Let's talk about the witness interviews. 302s of witness interviews. Those are not subject to the court order. Those are not subject to any fictional sealed order for a search warrant. Why aren't you releasing those with the redacted?
That's why I told you guys to look at the 302s. That's why I told you guys to look at the 302s. Not because of this, but those are really, really important. Those are things that you can actually look at and say, okay, this is at least found credible during the investigation.
Names of the victims.
We are releasing as much as legally allowed. That's why we went back to
how
the
is
courts.
How is that not legally allowed?
Sir, do you know how court orders work? Do you know how protective orders
Actually,
work?
Mr. Patel, I was a real prosecutor for 10 years. I know exactly how.
So I was a fake one?
And I want to understand what the court order prevents you from releasing witness statements that the FBI took.
You should know that as a real prosecutor, when the court hand downs a protective order and a motion to seal, the material is sealed unless that judge waives it.
Your testimony here is that all of those witness statements are under a court order, a protective order.
We are providing everything we can legally provide.
See how he didn't answer? He asked him a specific question. We are provided everything legally. He just glosses right past it. I can't believe I used to like this dude. Because he said he was going to do the exact opposite of what he's doing now. And he's up there just lying. And he's being real slick with his words.
No, that's not my question. My question is, why are those witness statements that are not grand jury testimony, that if they were under a protective order are no longer under a protective order, Why are they not being released?
How are they not under protective
Why
order?
are you not going to the court like you did for the grand jury testimony to unseal those records?
The DOJ did go to the court.
No, not on those records. Why aren't you going? You just went on grand jury.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
You are hiding the Epstein files, Mr.
Time of the
Patel.
gentleman has expired.
You are part of the cover-up.
I've got 4 documents I'd like to introduce into the record.
Great.
The first one is Jeffrey Epstein's 6th story played out for years in plain sight. And Acosta is quoted in here saying, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." The second document is entitled, "What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections." The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled, "Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals Planned Meetings with Obama Admin Official CIA Chief." And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former Prime Minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel.
This is Thomas Massie, the guy I was telling you about. He's smart, way smarter than I think they realize, and he's about to slow walk them.
It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes, Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else.
Ooh.
You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007 and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who...
Hear that? Those 302s, I'm telling you, that's how you find stuff. But notice what he just said. He's setting them up. He said, well, let me just, I'll let him do it.
Who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation. These documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to. Victims including minors, such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information. And we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to the social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that.
I went over that in my last live also. They were putting up, it's still there, it's still available, unless they pulled them down and re-redacted them, Social Security numbers of victims. I'm like, how is this, what is this? I saw several victims, and that's just me. a random guy searching through these files. And this is why they hate him. Dude's a hawk, and he sees everything, and he's like, well, wait a minute. You're releasing this stuff. You just now said, I'm not going to release a victim's information, but you did. Several of them. Juice Fruit, I saw 2 social security numbers going through these files. And he's going to cover, well, he's not going to cover that, but he's going to cover how bad it is right now. Because you can find more victims than you can people who actually victimize.
Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file, and I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Cash Patel is nominated to be...
Here's what's crazy about this. He has not looked at anything new. He keeps saying the FBI looked at it. The reason he's saying that is because that stuff has been looked at for 10 years. So that's why when he was asked something specific, he'll say the FBI has looked at it. But he asked if you looked at it. The slick talk, it's no joke. It's no joke. You really have to listen to them. And he'll say, well, if there's anything new, I'll look at it. But the FBI has already looked at it. It's like, have you looked at it? The FBI does. Yeah, okay. That's the problem. You're supposed to be the guy, Mr. Drain the Swamp. Mr. If I was doing that, I would release everything. Full transparency. Most transparent administration ever. And now here he is sitting in the seat with the slick talk and the double talk. Won't look at anything because that's already been investigated. Acosta and Bill Barr, they investigated that stuff. I do. Why aren't you looking at it? I've instructed my team if there's anything new to bring it to me. In other words, we're not looking at anything unless somebody else comes forward with something different. It's already been investigated. What are we going to look at it for?
The FBI director. Dan Bongino is nominated to be the number 2 at the FBI. MAGA celebrates, rejoices, bells are ringing out. The team, Patel, Bongino, that sought out every podcast microphone to talk about the Epstein list. The names are finally going to get released. It begins. They produce white binders. Phase 1 with the podcasters. This is not actually one of them, of course, I made this. Your name's on it, right? And the names are going to come out. Pam Bondi says the list is on her desk. Then a memo comes out all of a sudden and says, there's no list. Oh no phase 2. Phase 2 binders never happen. You said the conspiracy theories around Epstein just aren't true. They never have been. And yesterday, in an answer to Senator Kennedy, you said the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. So according to your testimony yesterday and in this committee, according to the evidence the FBI has, the number of names on the list are 0.
No,
0.
The index has been released, and the number of people involved in that trafficking operation were charged in 2018.
Other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, your testimony in the Senate and here is that according to the evidence you have, the number of other names is 0.
That were charged based on credible evidence.
Well, who are the other names? Give me the other names that weren't charged.
We are not releasing the names of anyone because the Department of Justice never does that of anyone that didn't have any credible information.
Behind me, I have 3 documents.
So going back to Massie's question, it's like, well, wait a minute. So you're saying that the victims aren't credible? What are you determining credible? Because I just showed you guys something that should not have been deemed credible. An anonymous post that they tracked down all the way until they found the guy. And then talked to him, promoted him, and transferred him. And he says that Epstein was moved. He wasn't unalived. He was moved the night before. But that should not be deemed credible. How does he determine what's credible? That's a way to deny accountability and say, well, we didn't know it was credible. So everything we find now, I didn't know that was credible. That's what that is. And it's ridiculous. Pam Bondi, I wanted Matt Gaetz. I said it at the time. I told everybody, jury's out on her. I don't know about her. She crashed completely out. And people were cheering this nonsense because there's always going to be those people who just pick a side. Democrat, Republican. That's it. That's all they care about. So they're cheering on her, acting like a complete moron and not answering questions and yelling and speaking like a Karen. Because that's what she did. Absolutely ridiculous.
From the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? they released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victims' survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this.
That's why I brought him up last live. That's why I brought up that billionaire Leslie Wexner. Because he's in there and he was being redacted. So the victims are not redacted. All their information is there. They redact the lawyer's name. But you go to the perpetrators, the conspirators page, and they're all redacted. They're hiding the perpetrators and exposing the victims. To me, that's a threat. Why would you do that? These are people who were never known to the public. They released them all. Oh, you guys say you want to release them all? Fine, we'll release everything. And it's like, dude, this is what we're doing here? You release all the victims and you still protect. This is why people are calling them PDF defenders. Because that's what they're doing. Dan Bongino's going crazy on his podcast, mad at everybody keeps saying that about him. What do you call this? Exposing victims and protecting the people who did it. Why?
Now, your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex.
Remember last live when I said that plea agreement was slick, real slick, because Epstein he never had to say that he did anything with a child, with a minor, because they charged him with prostitution. Now everybody knew it was with a minor, but if you ask him a question like he was getting deposed or in court on my last live, he said, I was never charged anything with a minor. Read the paperwork. That was just prostitution. I don't know how old she was. It's a game. It's a game to these people. But here's what's really important about Les Wexner. He's correct. He's all over those files, all over them. But he was never on the one that's most important that listed him as somebody who actually was a co-conspirator. They redacted him. He just pulled the thing off and did it himself. Semantics. Legalese is really important in this world. And if you don't have an ear for it, you might not even pay attention to it. I'm just sitting there listening. Whoa, 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 whoa. So what he's talking about the deputy, they just said, well, he's been listed. He's listed 4,000 times or 400 times or 1,500 times. That's not a big deal. We miss him on one page. Yeah, the one page that listed him as a perpetrator. Everything else was just circumstantial. Oh, he took a picture with him. That's not a big deal. But when you find out that he was listed as a co-conspirator, and they redacted that because they didn't want to implicate him. Insane.
Sex trafficking.
I'm going to go back just a little bit so you can hear what he's saying, because this is so important. So important.
By the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD302 release. These are the documents that we need, that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
Listen to this response.
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times. I
already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr.
Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time back?
Mr. Chairman. The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from.
All right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that?
Here's
a political
the question.
joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to the next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
co-conspirator.
and we invited you
Gentlemen.
in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get.
So she's laughing, and she knows what she's doing. That's why I really don't like this, because he said that he's listed all over. He understands that 4,000 times, 10,000 times, doesn't matter. He's not listed on the one document that implicates him. And he's redacted. Why? Is that a coincidence? Everywhere that does not implicate him, it's okay. Just put his name at. We can, and they've been explaining it away. Hey, remember everybody, there's a lot of people in here that didn't do anything. That's where he's listed. But on the one where it shows that he did do something and is literally part of all of this, he's redacted. And she's like, huh, well, we changed it after 40 minutes. Why was it left that way? And why were those victims unredacted? You care more about this guy because he's a billionaire than you do the victims. And this is insanity. There's nothing cool about what she's doing. This guy has Trump derangement system or syndrome. This stuff worked in the last administration because it was true. But now when you're protecting PDFs, this doesn't work. It makes you look worse. You're joking and you're saying fake news, all this stuff. It doesn't work anymore. Does not work anymore. I was one of you guys. This doesn't work. Not on this. Absolutely not. Now, if we're talking about Trump's taxes and all this other nonsense and everything else, none of that matters. This is not funny. And she should not be laughing. What's funny, or not funny, what's crazy about this hearing is that the victims are there. All of them. In all of these hearings, they wanted to be there. And they're watching this lady laugh at him. And he's asking specific questions. Who released all of these people's names? And why did you redact this guy's on this one form? That's the most important form. And you're laughing at it.
You're a failed politician.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I'm reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because this is bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question
this goes over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
What does that have to do with anything he said? Nothing. No, his taxes, billionaires' taxes were completely different from ours. Completely different. His taxes meant absolutely nothing. There was nothing out of the ordinary with his taxes. But what's important about this is she sidesteps everything and tries to flip it back. This used to work when it was valid. It is no longer valid. You're not under attack anymore. You're not being attacked by the Biden administration. You are the administration. You're in charge. None of this works anymore. And by the way, most of the media is on your side now. So you've become everything you said you were going to look into, investigate, hold accountable. And now you're sitting here laughing.
The gentleman's time has expired.
She didn't answer the question.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, could she answer the question?
Chairman, I was wondering. The gentlelady's allowed, the Attorney General's allowed to respond the way she wants to respond to any member's questions, Republican, Democrat.
All right, I have unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized for a UC.
All right, this is an example. I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted, even when you go to look at them.
Without objection.
I'm submitting a witness statement that implicates Les Wexner.
Without objection.
I'm submitting an article from the New York Times that the DOJ released nude photos and identifiable pictures of the victims. I'm submitting a letter from AG Bondi to Patel, imploring him to quit keeping the files when you found out that they were keeping files from you, because they're still redacting files that you...
Chairman, are we going to recess for votes?
Yes, we are.
I'm submitting for unanimous consent a document of 17 individuals who've resigned because of the Epstein files.
Without objection.
Sir, do you think that...
And what's wildest about that is you heard she's the one who was arguing back and forth with Patel. Bongino and Patel were really mad at how she released to everyone that there was nothing there. We saw everything. There's nothing there. Now she's saying if you have anything, 1-800-FBI or whatever the phone number is. It's insane. Oh, none of this makes sense. Yeah, and they're keeping files from her, and she's saying stop doing this. And then she gets in the hearing, and all she does is throw everything back at anyone who asks her questions. I didn't put anything from any Democrats because they're completely disingenuous. All they care about is Trump. I don't care about Trump. Trump did nothing in these files, otherwise they would have been released it a long time ago. And if they didn't release it a long time ago, they would have released it in the last administration. They didn't. There's nothing there about him. I don't care about him. That's all they're pretending, and it's because they legitimately have Trump derangement syndrome. I care about right now releasing what you have and stop hiding stuff. And you see, I don't know if you heard them, they released nude photos of the victims. So they released everything on the victims, social security number, nude photos, all their names, even the ones who were anonymous. But they're protecting people who did bad stuff. Clearly, they're protecting them. It can't get clearer. Les Wexner should have been unredacted and listed as a co-conspirator. I talked about him in the last live. That's why I did it, because I knew that I was going to be doing this week. None of this makes sense. What's going on, KTC? So he's going to talk about it again. This is Thomas Massie again.
Patel lied under oath in his testimony. We played the video for Attorney General Bondi, and she responded to it. But what do you make of that whole situation?
I provided the evidence today that shows that his statements were false under oath. Patel's statements were false.
Perjury.
They are in possession. They were in possession at the time, and they're still in possession of evidence that other men participated in the sex trafficking.
Attorney General Bondi didn't seem to directly answer that question. What do you make of what she did say?
She didn't answer anything. She came here just ready to talk about the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ.
Oh, that was so bad.
Just seems kind of crazy to me.
Oh, bad.
Congress have? I mean, this is a law. They're not abiding by it. So what recourse do you have now? What's next?
Well, I think we're making progress. You know, we got them to admit they over-redacted 2 documents this week, and that they have co-conspirators' names that they haven't released. The recourse, and I keep reminding the folks at DOJ this, is that the next Attorney General can bring charges against them for breaking the law.
Yep.
I think that's what's compelled them to produce 3 million documents. And now they're claiming that it's incompetence. Like, their defense today is incompetence for why they haven't given us all the documents they should, why they have over-redacted in the case of co-conspirators, and why they failed to redact the names of the victims.
Can I just ask what it's like to have the victims inside of that room while you're doing all this?
Crazy.
I think it's helpful. I mean, they're the reason this bill got passed. People say, when will you be satisfied? I'll be satisfied when those victims are satisfied, the survivors who were here today. And until then, I'm going to, work my butt off trying to get the DOJ to comply with this law.
Can you give us any more context about why you believe that the 6 men that you guys have found in these unredacted files, why you believe that they're likely incriminated by what you found in the files? Like, is there other like addendums, other pages that you're able to connect to the ones that you've been able to lift the redactions that have brought you to those conclusions, or where are you coming at?
That would be a question for the DOJ. Why did they have a list of 18 people with Maxwell and Epstein on it? and 2 victims, and then a bunch of people that so far seem random to me. And then why were they compelled to redact those men's names? But if we go to actual FBI documents that have titles on them, like the FBI document, the 3-page document that has Leslie Wexner listed as a co-conspirator, at the top of that document, it says child sex trafficking. Like, if you're the DOJ, and wouldn't that be the first place you go when you inherit documents from a prior administration?
You sit here.
Les Wexner's still out roaming free. I don't know if he's been brought in yet. This is all as of Thursday or Friday. Listen, this is one of the most embarrassing things I have ever seen done on the House floor. Because she thinks that she's doing the Trump thing. She's not Trump. She can't do what she's trying to do here. They're talking about serious crimes against children. They're talking about trafficking. They're talking about all this stuff. And listen to her response. This is the worst. And I saw this everywhere. And again, I don't do the Democrat-Republican thing. I don't. So Republicans were cheering her on this nonsense, and Democrats were condemning her because Trump is in the files. It's disgusting. That game is over for me. I'm not playing that game anymore. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. It is what it is. Listen to her.
The DOJ, and wouldn't that be the first place you go when you inherit documents from a prior administration?
You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million. And Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
I'm going to go back and break down what she said, because this is insanity. Because she's trying to talk about Obama, because she knows a lot of people don't like Obama. On both sides. A lot of people just don't like him. But this goes back further than Obama. This is pre-Obama. This has nothing to do with him, because you're in power now. We don't want to hear, oh, the last guy, he did a horrible job. Okay, that's why you're here. What are you doing? A horrible job, but it's his fault. That's not how it works. You're supposed to be the one cleaning it up. And you're not.
Documents from a prior administration.
You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents. Over
3 million documents that Thomas Massie forced them to release. The guy who was yelling at her just now, he did it. And he left them no choice, because he had to literally. So you have, again, the Democrats, they just want Trump. They would love to see him in a jumpsuit prison. So he had to team up with these rabid animals to get them to do it, because he knows they hate him. But he just wants the files released. So he gets them, hey, we need to release these files. Yeah, let's release the files, because they think they're burning him at the stake. It has nothing to do with him. Massie just needed it released. So what do the Republicans do? They hate Massie now. How dare you force us to release the files? And now she's saying, we're so transparent, we released the files. No, lady, you were forced. And you're still holding on to stuff.
3 million. And Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic.
You did. You asked them about Jeffrey Epstein. And now you're in place, in the position, in the spot, with the power to release it. And what are you doing? You're yelling about the last guy. Nobody asked Merrick Garland. You're right. But you did. Dan Bongino did. Cash Patel did. All of you people did ask about it, and now you're in power saying that nobody else asked about it. So why are you asking me? They ran on this. This is insane. Bongino literally did podcasts nonstop. Cash Patel did interviews and podcasts nonstop about when Trump gets in office, he's going to do this, and this. And then you know what Trump says? Okay, well, you guys want to do it? Do it. And what do? We can't do it. We don't want to do it. What about Merrick Garland? We don't want to hear about Obama. We don't want to hear about Bush. We don't want to hear about Merrick Garland. We want you to do what you said you were going to do. And all she's doing is looking back. And if you get put into a position, so I used to run, but in a former industry of mine, you move into a business, you clean it up, you move on. And I was really good at that. So they paid me to do this. Hey, go over here. It's a mess. You're probably going to have to just clean house, fire everybody, start from scratch. That was my job. So I would go in and I would do this, right? Never, ever once would it be acceptable for me to turn to my boss and say, if he's saying, hey, you know, what's going on? This is taking you longer than normal. It's not acceptable for me to say, yeah, but the guy who was here before, but I paid you to go in and revamp it all. So it's not on the old guy. Nobody cares about the old guy. He's gone. That's why he's fired. It's not on Merrick Garland. That's why he's fired. It's not on Obama. He's gone. They're all gone. And now here you are making an excuse. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't deal well with excuses. I've fired many of people over excuses. I don't accept them. I don't accept excuses. Either you can do it or not. You told me you can do it. So if you can do it, do it. I don't want to hear why you didn't do it. Just do it. If you can't do it, let me know now. I'll find somebody who can. And maybe I can find you somewhere else. But more than likely, you're fired. That's just what it is. In the business world, it's tough. But I can't pay somebody to do something and then they just make excuses. I can't tolerate it at all. At all. I can't have, you're supposed to be a manager. You can't handle your business? And then what does that make me do? I start questioning them. Okay, so let's look at your P&L. Let's look at your scorecard. Let's go line for line. What does this mean? And that's where I find out they don't even know their own business. You got to go. Sorry. You're not built for this. Go be a supervisor somewhere else. But you're not a manager. What she's doing right now, she needs to go be a supervisor somewhere. Go back to Florida. You're not a manager. You're blaming the guy from 4 years ago or from 2 years ago, a year and a half. And through those whole 4 years, nobody said anything. You were literally brought in to do that job. And it's been a year and you haven't done anything. And you fought every way or every step of the way. I don't hear it. I swear to you, they'd be brought into my office. She would be brought into my office and I would say, what's going on with this? You're supposed to release this. What happened? Well, the guy before me was supposed to do me a favor. I don't need to hear it anymore. Go get your things. You have a lock? You have stuff in your office? Yeah, okay. We'll box it up for you. And I'll, if you want, you go wait in the parking lot. We can bring it all out. But you're not even going back to your office. You're not qualified. I'm sorry. It is what it is. And just in case the conversation went this way, they're already in your office boxing your things up. I wish it would have worked, but when you applied for this job, you told me you can do this, and now all I'm getting is excuses. This is the second conversation. I don't do 3, I do 2. First one, can you do it? Yes. Okay. You sure? Yes. You're positive? Yes. Okay. Do your thing. Do you need any training on this? Do you need, I can help you if you want on wording. If you need to start terminating people, we can do this. If you need to start terminating, I can be there for you. I will be there with you, and I won't talk. I won't say anything. I'm just there to show that you have backing. I will do that for you. Can you do it? Yes. Okay. Please, if you don't think you can, let me know now, because we're not having this conversation again. No, I got it, boss. Okay. And then you start making excuses. No, I'm going to show you how you should have done it with all these other people. And depending on what state you're in, if you're in, I think Texas, they have to pay you out right away, or California, they have to pay you out right away. Some they just go with your last pay period. Whatever your next pay period is, if you get paid this Friday, okay, your pay will be on this Friday. If there's any discrepancies, let me know. Call me, let me know. I'll take care of it for you. There shouldn't be, because that's not what we do. But if there is, let me know. I'll take care of it for you. But you're going to have to find a job where your capabilities match what you're telling people your capabilities are, because this is not it. I'm sorry. And we're done. Just like that. This is so ridiculous that she's making these excuses and thinking that that's acceptable, and that any American who voted for her to do a job that she's not doing, there's no way we're going to go with this. The Dow is doing this, and the prices of food is going. Okay, yeah, we get that. What was the primary thing? That was the economy. The economy's actually doing decent. Cool, we're good. Okay, what about the other stuff? Can you only do one thing at a time? Because your job has nothing to do with the economy. So you're pointing at somebody else's success. Why are you telling about the economy? What does that have to do with you? Nothing? Oh, okay, so let's go back to what we're talking about. We're talking about your accountability. What have you done? Your law enforcement. You have nothing to do with that. That cabinet has nothing to do with you. Anything, Treasury, economics, IRS, you don't have anything to do with that. So why are you talking about the economy? Why are you trying to tell the American people about somebody else's job that they're succeeding at? You're not succeeding. I want to know what you are doing and what you have done. And you said you could do it. I'm sorry, you can't. I need somebody. This job is way too big. I need somebody who can do the job.
Is that, you know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should.
You know what? You're right, Pam Bondi. What does any of that have to do with you? Was any of that your job? No? Okay, so why are you talking about it? My wife told me she could never work for me. She's heard conversations that I've had with people. She's like, there's no way I could ever work for you. She's like, I love you, but I cannot work for you. We would never work. Everyone who does their job loves me. But people who don't do their job, they hate my guts. I don't know. I mean, the American people laid out our expectations to our employee. That's our job. We are there to set the standard. Okay, this is the standard. And I'll work. I would go in and show everybody I can do everything here. It's not my job to do that. It's your job. So I'm showing you that I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at. So when I say, hey, please make sure that this person is doing what they're supposed to be doing over there because I just saw them do something wrong. Make sure they're trained. Make sure they're up to speed on policy. And then I shouldn't see that again. Right? Right. Sure? Yeah. Do you need training on that? No, I got it. Okay. Please tell me right now. If I need to go over this, I have no issue going over this. You're not even in trouble right now. I just need you to understand where I'm coming from because we're not having this conversation again. Because the next time we're having this conversation, I'm going to say, I told you we weren't going to have this conversation again. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, there's no way that you can't run any business with people who make excuses. You just can't. The American people sent this lady in to do a job, and she's bragging on somebody else's job. Yeah, but the manager over there is doing a phenomenal job. The American people need to know. Yeah, let them tell it. I'm talking to you. You're doing a great job on the border, young lady, but that's not what we're talking about. So I appreciate the work, even though it's not really you, it's Chrissy Noam, and you know you're prosecuting people. That's your job. Why aren't you prosecuting these people? Why are you completely ignoring these people? Why are you exposing victims? What is this? None of this makes sense.
be talking about. What does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked.
Nothing.
Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
The president has people to promote those things. She's not one of them. She's supposed to be prosecuting people. That's her job. Getting justice, getting accountability. That's her job. I appreciate that, Juicy Fruit. She said we have similar managing style. I'm willing to show everybody everything. That matter of fact, when I would go into the new places in my former life, I would do everything. I would clean toilets just so they know, okay, he's not above it. So when he asks me this, he means it. Because I saw him cleaning the toilet. So I know he'll do it. So when he asks me to clean the toilet, I can't say, I'm not going to do that. No, oh, really? Okay. So you're my boss. No? Oh, okay. It's weird that you said you won't do it. You know I do it, right? I'm not going to do it, but you know I would do it, right? Okay, just checking. I just want to make sure you understand we're on the same page here. You're going to do that because I asked you to. It's not out of your scope of what you're supposed to do. And this is an example. I don't just go in and start making people do stuff like that. But I'm just giving the example of I will do anything within the business to show people that it can be done, that I can do it, and that I know what you're doing. So you can't play games. I don't want to see any shortcuts. Did you see me take shortcuts? No. Okay. So why are you taking a shortcut? Like this all goes, everything is about training in business. That lady clearly has no idea how to do her job. What's up, Lester? Because if she knew how to do her job, she wouldn't be talking and bragging on somebody else's job. It's unacceptable. Anyway, out of the business. Well, you get me talking about business, I can go on and on and on. I brought up a guy named Jean-Luc Brunel last week, in my last live. And he was also one of the co-conspirators. And I'm bringing him up for a reason. When Massie was talking about Les Wexner, it was important. But I don't know if you remember that I said Jean-Luc Brunel, he unalived himself also. And I told you guys, before I even said that, I said, I'll get back to him because I knew this week that I was going to do that. I was going to talk about that. Not for long, because I'm almost done here, actually. But in December of 2020, the year after Epstein unalived himself or got shipped off somewhere, Jean-Luc Brunel was caught trying to flee Paris. And they caught him on an airport, or they caught him boarding a plane. And they grabbed him, and I think he was on his way to Senegal. I don't know. I didn't even look up. I should have probably looked up. I don't know if it matters. If Senegal has like no extradition rules or something like that. But he was caught trying to go to Senegal, and he was grabbed for trafficking, SA, R-word, conspiracy, everything that has to do with nasty and minors. That's what he was being charged with. That's why he was trying to flee Paris. They locked him up and he was held for a year. And they charged him on one count, which is, I don't understand it, but they were charging him on one count of R-word of a teen. He unalived himself in the exact same way that Epstein did. A year later. In his cell. The exact same way. And I thought that was very, very weird. And I couldn't get her pronunciation right. I put it there. Virginia Giuffre is how you're supposed to say her name. Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre. No, he wasn't. So when I say exactly, I mean he hung himself and did that. He wasn't taken out. There was no real controversy behind it. It's just weird that these people tend to do the same thing. But Virginia Giuffre, the one who brought all of this to our attention, after all these years, she's the reason why we even know who Epstein is. She unalived herself last year, in April of last year. And it's still under investigation, supposedly. Her father said no way, no how they got to his daughter. Now, every father is going to say the same thing. But Why now? That's the part that's really weird about it, because now they're finally getting justice. She was pushing for an administration to actually do something for it. This administration said they were going to do something about it. So why unalive yourself now? Didn't make any sense. Rest in peace, absolutely. Because she brought all of this to light. Nobody knew anything about this, if not for Virginia Giuffre. And now she's gone. Her father says there's no way, it's not possible. And that's all I got for today. So hopefully, if you didn't learn anything, you understand what's really happening. What's happening in politics right now is it always happens, but it's worse than ever when you have to pick a side. It's black and white. You cannot be in the middle, in the gray. And I'm actually further to the right. But what I'm saying is, on certain issues, should be universal. There shouldn't be any fight over, do we release all the files or not? Like, I don't understand why anyone would not want to do this. And the fact that there's still 2.5 million or 3 million files that are being held is wrong. And it's illegal because Massie, the guy that I showed you guys earlier, him and Ro Khanna wrote this bill so that you have to release everything. The only thing that should be redacted are the victims, and obviously the children who are in videos and stuff like that. But those are also, in my opinion, they're considered victims. So anything that has to do with them, redacted. But we still need to know about it. So if you got a video, I think you can redact videos, blur videos. I don't even care if it's all blurry. I want to hear, as sick as it is, the reason I want to is because I want to know the scope of it. I want to hear voices. There was a thing that came out. I can't remember his name. The Chicago Podesta. There's Leon and John Podesta. There was an audio. I don't know if you guys remember that. Oh, it was bad. It was really, really bad. He was doing something to a child, and we don't know technically if it's his voice. I think it is. There wasn't really AI back when that came out. But you can hear him abusing a kid, and that tells me, okay, so again, now we have AI, it's different. But that tells me how the scope of it. It's like, oh, this is way more serious than I thought. And that's why I think everything needs to be released. That's what real transparency is. Again, you don't have to show anybody, but we need to know about this. We have to know about the Pizzagate thing was muddied up because, in my opinion, the federal government went in and just threw all kind of crazy accusations and crazy kind of theories and stuff like that. And they covered up the fact that there really was something serious going on. There really were code words. I went over the Wayfair. Did I go over that? I don't even know if I was going live back then. Do you guys remember the Wayfair scandal? Where they would have like a dresser, and that dresser represented a child. It was really weird. And the dresser is like $36,000. Young, and the description is for a kid, but it's like a dresser or a bookshelf. And it's like, what is going on here? They scrubbed all that. But that was all part of the Pizzagate thing, which was real. And that was all being leaked. But then again, they started throwing in all kind of crazy stuff to make people say, oh, that's all just conspiracy theories. That's what they're trying to do to these files. That's why it's important. If you're going to go and look this stuff up, look at the 302s. There's a reason why Thomas Massie was stressing those 302s. There's a reason, because that's credible stuff that they were actually investigating. Oh, Juicy Fruit, there's a rabbit hole that you would not believe. You would not believe. And they pulled those sites down, scrubbed them, put them back up. Now everything's normal. But at that time, during the Pizzagate days, oh, it was crazy. And the stuff that was being released, again, there wasn't AI like there is now. There's no way. There was no way that was not John Podesta abusing a child. You could hear it. It was sick. And the stuff, it was sick. But now here we are. They're going to try to do the same thing that these files are. They're muddying them up. They already are doing it. Validate the stuff. Look it up. If you go to Grok or Perplexity or Google or ChatGPT, it will tell you if there's an opposing point of view. It will tell you, oh, used to print that she chops it. It's not happening anymore, and supposedly they weren't aware that it was happening. But that was a tool that they were using. Let me see. Do I want to pull this up on my computer? I'm gonna have the FBI here. It's called an unfound conspiracy theory, but you could go on the site when this was happening. Look at this. This is back in the day. You didn't know about that? Oh, it was rough. It was rough. The Wayfair, I just typed in Wayfair children's scandal, and it says it refers to a widely debunked conspiracy theory that surfaced in July 2020 alleging that online retailer was involved. And see, nobody said they were involved. We said that the people were doing it. This is that slick talk. This is no different than what Cash Patel was doing. The claims originated with the QAnon community. See how they did? See? That's a whole 4chan thing and an 8chan thing. It's all anonymous. That doesn't mean it's not real, and certain things aren't real. Spread rapidly across platforms like Reddit, Twitter, TikTok. Theorists pointed at several clues, in quotes, as evidence. High-priced items such as storage cabinet, pills priced between $10,000 and $20,000 were cited as suspicious. Really? So again, AI will tell you the other perspective, but that's not just suspicious because the descriptions were funky. Also, the descriptions they did not match what you were buying. Naming conventions. Some of these expensive items were given human names. Samara, Yuritsa, which theorists claimed to match the names of missing children. Yeah, because they were. It wasn't a conspiracy. This one was not a conspiracy. It just wasn't. SKU number glitches, of course. Claims circulated that entering specific product SKU numbers into a Russian search engine, Yandex would return images of young women. That I don't know about. I don't know anything about that one. That's wild, but I don't know anything about that. Investigation by journalists and fact-checking organizations like Snopes, of course. They're the best. They're not even used by X anymore because they search up straw man arguments, stuff that you didn't even put in. So if I said search Wayfair scandal, they'll search something else and then say that it's rated false. And it's like, wait a minute, I didn't ask about that. They're shady. USA, they found no evidence to support the claims. Of course. Pricing glitches. Wayfair explained that the high prices were due to pricing algorithms and glitches, or that the items were heavy-duty industrial-grade cabinets for $20,000. I don't know. So listen, I don't want to get sued. I wouldn't say not to shop there because they were using them. It's not like they knew about. I don't think they knew about it. Product naming. The company uses an algorithm to name its millions of products, a custom practice among large retailers. So that's why they were saying the names. Just coincidentally, being children's names of kids who were missing was, just that coincidence. Many of the children identified by the theorists not actually missing. Some even posted videos on social media to debunk the rumors personally. So you're always going to have crazy people doing crazy things. That does not mean what we were looking at was fake. But again, they were flooding those sites with nonsense to make things look crazier than they were. The Yandex search results were attributed to a technical glitch where the engine returned the same images for almost any string of numbers. So, okay, maybe that was legit. Real world consequences were, unfortunately, what Jeffrey just said. While the theory was false, it had significant negative impacts. Hotline overload. So people were calling, asking about it. And the system was overwhelmed by hundreds of reports based solely on the viral conspiracy, making it difficult for actual victims to receive help. There were harassment. Individuals whose names in the photos were caught up in the theory faced online harassment, loss of privacy. Recent resurgence as of early 2026. Of course, it's unfounded. Claims resurfaced after Wayfair was mentioned in unverified documents related to the Epstein case. That's why I said this stuff is connected. Some of it's real, some of it is not real. But if you wanted to go look into that was crazy times back then for conspiracy theorists. Oh man, huge. Investigators note that these mentions do not prove any illegal activity. You can look them up if you want, type it in. But again, the tips are different from the 302s. That's where I would focus my time. That's where I would focus my time. IMO Speaks. If you're new here, like, subscribe, share, please. Why wouldn't you share? Look at my last video. It was also on Epstein. Very, 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 very important stuff. It really is. Because this is the swamp. Everyone's involved. Music industry, film industry, politicians, royalty, magicians, like everybody. In every field is doing this kind of stuff. They need to catch these people. They need to be held accountable. They need to be locked up or unalive themselves if it's possible. If there's a death penalty in some of these places, get rid of them. They don't need to be in society. But I don't like them being protected. If you want to look up this stuff, type in 302s. There's a lot of information in there. It's too much for anybody to just look through all. It's millions and millions of documents. Millions. So not only do you have to find stuff, you have to understand whether it's real and validate it. And if it is real, you have to even know what you're looking at. You may just gloss past something that's really important and not realize it's really important because it connects to something else that you didn't see or don't know about. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you all. Ms. Juicy Fruit, I didn't know she's going to go down a rabbit hole. Not worth it. What's going on? I appreciate you guys for stopping in. Lester, thank you, sir. I appreciate you as always. Mel Dub was in here. I appreciate you, sir. Highly Favored, thank you, thank you. KTC, thank you, young lady. I appreciate you as well. Everyone who was in here, don't let them gaslight you and talk about the economy, because that's a completely different function, and somebody else is working on that. That has nothing to do with law enforcement. Nothing. So there's no reason why a prosecutor should be talking about the economy. It makes no sense. Don't allow that. Don't let them say that and say, oh, okay, well, I guess. Jamie Jules, thank you for stopping in also. I already said highly favored, I think. Vibe in My Lane, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that was everybody who was in here. HV Mondek, appreciate you, sir. Old School, KMC was, KMC was in here as well. I think, share this. This is important stuff. Again, the economy is one thing, immigration is another thing. You could be totally happy in those areas and have nothing to do with offenders and people who are violating children and unaliving children in some of these cases. This guy had islands. 1.5 islands. He had mansions in New York, in Florida. They told us that there are cameras everywhere, but now they're telling us that, yeah, but there's nothing on them. It's all child images and videos. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't add up. Because if that was the case, then just show us. Show us all the images, blur them out, fully redact them, learn how to redact first of all, because clearly they're having problems with that. And just show us. Prove it. If that's what it is, and it's nothing to see here, prove it. That's all I got. Thank you guys again. I put all my video or all my links. Might as well do it one more time. Sorry, I was about to click out. If you want to support, let's see, where is it? If you want to support, there's a link. Support. If I'm doing artwork, hopefully I think I'm going to start back this week. My back is better. I had to stop for a little while, but I do artwork on these 3 channels on TikTok. I do artwork on Twitch, and then I do artwork on a different YouTube channel. And hopefully I can start back on Tuesdays and Thursdays, unless I'm out of town or something. That's what I'll be doing. I also have Rumble. Rumble is just politics, just like this channel, strictly politics. And then for you guys on Rumble and you guys on Twitch right now, because I'm live over there, this is my YouTube. Follow me, follow me, follow me. And then my art, I have a YouTube art channel. I need to go look at it, see if I'm able to go live from there again. Or now. I shouldn't say again. I've been mixing it up and I don't like doing that. That's my YouTube art channel. If you want to see me draw, doing portraits and stuff like that, I can hopefully finish my father's series the next 3-4 lives. I have I'm looking at it right now. I think I gotta move some stuff. Anyway, and then if you want to see me in true troll form, follow me on X. That's all I got. Thank you guys again.